Yeah, I hit it, Chad. Did it turn on? Yeah, it's on.
Yep, we're good to go.
We're good?
Yep.
Anyway, like I was saying, we do a lot of work for both wildlife and livestock. My theory is pretty simple. If I remove a lion uh, out of the mountains because it's killing sheep or calves or something like that, I'm also helping the deer herds, right? That lion's not going to eat any more deer in its life. Same with coyotes. We do a lot of coyote work. A lot of it is on the ground where we're actually setting traps. Like this trap right here is a coyote trap that we'd use. This is an MB 650, and this is a traditional trap. This is a long spring trap, an N3 is what that trap's called. This is mostly what people recognize when you think of trapping. It's kind of what like the old time trappers that settled this area used. I'll let you guys look at those if you want. You want to pass these around for me, bud? Be real careful with these. Not that they're going to break or anything. I can take that stake out. Anything like that, but they will snap your fingers pretty hard. That trap right there, that's a coil spring trap. And you can see it's got the 4 springs on it. It's really a strong trap. That trap would hold a lion and possibly even a wolf. This trap right here is designed specifically for wolves. We don't have a bunch of wolves in Utah, but they are coming. We get them now and again. Hey, how are you? They see wolves up in northern Utah more often than we'd like to right now. But that's just a couple of methods we use to remove coyotes. This right here is called a snare. And we use a lot of these to remove coyotes too. So if you've ever seen a net wire fence or anything like that where the coyotes are crawling under it, you'd hang that snare, make a loop like that, and hang that snare in that hole. When the coyote crawls through it, it slides down and it dispatches them rather quickly. We use a lot of these. You can also use these in trail sets, but I mainly use them in fences. This is called a throw arm, and we actually build these ourselves. These are built for trapping bears and lions. How they work is this spring folds over, and that trigger sets up on it like that. I'm going to wire it so I don't hit myself. Anyway, when you set that in there like that, you want to put the back end up just a little bit, and then you dig a hole right here. And we'll go outside and I'll show you all this. With that being said, you'd set this snare right here, and you tie one end around a tree. So that'd go around a tree like that, and then you feed it back through itself here. And this loop is going to set over the top of that. And with that being said, you'd make a pin, stack sticks up a fence basically that goes into a triangle with the carcass of whatever the animal killed, like a sheep, for example. In the back of that, when the bear walks in to catch it, he's going to step on that, and it's going to throw that lever up over his arm, his foot, and he's caught. So the more they fight it, the tighter that gets. That's just how we trap bears. I think bears are really, really hard on our elk. It's been studied more and more over the last little while that bears move into spawning grounds or calving grounds where the elk are calving, and the wolves are tough on them as well, but they're finding these calves and just they eat them up, and they love them. This is a bear skull. You guys can pass that around if you look at it. There are. Yes, I've got some video of some wolves that they seen just less than 2 months ago up in northern Utah. It was actually running right down the side of a road, and a rancher was videoing it. And it's kind of a tricky situation with the wolves right now. Um, Utah state law does not permit wolves in Utah. Federal law says you can't kill wolves. So I don't know which one you listen to. I probably wouldn't kill it just to be safe. But uh, Colorado just reintroduced some wolves right across the border in like Rangeley, in the mountain range around that country. Those wolves have already been into Utah and gone back, and mainly that's what we have a lot of is wolves, uh, young adolescent wolves transferring through the state. So they'll come out of Wyoming, Idaho, move down. A few years ago, a guy was out calling coyotes and shot one in Beaver, and so that they're here. Uh, there is none established yet. There's no established wolf packs. Kind of an interesting little fact when the wolves were reintroduced, the antis, that's what I call them, the environmentalists, they agreed that when there was 150 breeding packs of wolves, so a mom and a dad basically, right, that are established breeding, they would allow the states to take over and manage the elk or the wolves just like you would elk or deer, any other big game animal. 2 years ago, there was over 1,500 breeding packs, and they're still fighting us in courts, saying, "Hey, we want more wolves." Uh, the wolves, for an example, in Yellowstone, Mr. Warnick and I were talking about this a minute ago. They've done a great job in pulling the elk herds down, but they've also made it. I think they've taken them too far. So that's where management comes into play. There's a balancing act in all of this, right? You've got to have X amount of predators to control the deer and elk and everything, so that you don't run rampant and get diseases, things like that running through the elk. But yet you don't want so many predators that they're killing off everything and taking away opportunities for us, for an example, to go hunt them. Um, it's it's kind of a fine line you draw, and you just work on it whichever way you can. We do a lot of, like I say, predator work for livestock and wildlife. We've done a lot of red fox work on grouse leks. That's where like the sage grouse go into areas and they lay their eggs, and that's called a lek. And the foxes and even ravens are horrible on them, and they were right on the verge of getting listed on the Endangered Species Act. And with the work that we were able to go in and do, we saved that from happening. With that kind of work happening and us keeping them off the endangered list, that keeps a lot of public ground open for us all to use. If they, for an example, if they list that bird as endangered, when they do that, the areas, those leks are going to get shut down because they want to allow that bird to reproduce as much as it can. And you wouldn't be allowed to go in there hunting or fishing. A lot of times it's along creeks and whatnot. So it was really a good deal that we'd done that, and just helped the animal survive. So it's kind of fun. We do. I was talking about some of the predator work we do, and I handed those traps around for you to look at. We also do a lot of aerial hunting, which is done out of airplanes, fixed wing airplanes, and helicopters. It's really, really a good tool for lowering the population of coyotes. Um, the helicopters we mainly use in the high country, which by the high country I mean the mountainous areas. That's where the fixed wings can't fly. Um, the deserts and the flat ground is where we use the fixed wing airplane. With that being said, when we're shooting them out of them aircraft, it's with a 12 gauge. We use Benelli shotguns. They seem to be they stand up the best for what we're doing. We're cycling thousands and thousands of rounds through them. We shoot a number 4 buck out of it. That shotgun shell has 27 pellets in it. Has a lot of knockdown power. You want, for safety purposes, you want that kind of result. You don't want to have to come back in on that coyote multiple times um, for your own safety. The more passes you make, the more you're putting yourself in danger. You're flying low and slow, and that's two things that they teach you not to do when you're flying. They want you to fly high and fast, and so you want to get in and out as fast as you can and kill that animal and then be on your way. And also, the more passes you have to make on that animal, the air destabilizes, gets broken up, so it gets rougher and rougher, and it's harder for the pilot to fly. So that's just a couple of the ways that we go about hunting coyotes and removing them. And like I said, I think it all benefits wildlife as we go. Um, that's that's called a throw arm. I showed you that. This is just a coon trap. You guys can all go down to Ace Hardware and buy those. You've probably all seen them. They're real simple to set. You squeeze that, flip the trigger down, put your bait down in there. That raccoon will stick his hand in there, try to pull it out. That'll catch him. Okay, that's just one way to catch raccoons. Raccoons are another thing we worked on that sage grouse deal. They like to go in there and they'll find the nest and the eggs and they'll eat them all up. Live traps, this is another way you can catch them. This one's a little bit small for raccoons, but that's another way you can catch them. Any questions so far? No, am I boring you to death? Yeah. There's about 20 of us in the state of Utah that work as trappers. We're positioned all over. I don't know if you'd know anybody else. The closest trapper to us is probably a guy in Genola. His name's Luke Osborne. There's a trapper over in Fountain Green, Darren Roach. So we all have our own areas that we work. We call them districts. For an example, I have 3 districts. I have a summer district, which is my summer district goes from Nephi over to Schofield Reservoir and then out to Highway 6 and 50. So that patch of area is mine. I cover the Nebo, the Sand Pitch Range, and then the north end of the Skyline. Then in the spring, I go up here to Jericho. So everything from here to basically Eureka, I cover that. And then in the winter, I have a horseshoe district. I go from Cove Fort through the Pavant, back up here to Delta, and then out to Margin Pass and down to Crystal Peak and back in on the dry lake bed. I skip the Cricket Mountain Range. So, and we all have different districts and we all butt up next to each other. A lot of times, for an example, if one of the other guys I work with is having bad lion or bear trouble, I'll take my dogs and I'll go help him with that trouble. You know, if he's tried catching it for a week or 10 days and hasn't been able to remove that animal, then I'll go in and help him out with that. And sometimes they come help me, so we work together. But it's a pretty good deal. We got a lot of country to cover though. So
the dogs you use, are they your dogs?
yes.
Or are they the state help you or contracted?
Yeah. So they give me a stipend in a sense. They pay me X amount of dollars every month to have so many dogs. There's 2 of us in the state that get paid to have hound dogs. It's me and one other guy, Luke Osborne. I cover the southern end of the state, so from Highway 6 and 50 south to Arizona, and he covers everything from 6 and 50 north to Idaho and Wyoming. We get paid to have those dogs. Everybody on the outfit, the agency I work for, you get paid for 2 coyote dogs, decoy dogs. But we get a little more because we have a pack of hounds. And then we also get some reimbursement for having horses. We spend a lot of time on horses, and we also spend a lot of time in camp, and we get paid to camp. So that's kind of how some of that money works. Right now, we're working really closely with the Division of Wildlife. They've got certain areas that they've deemed have too many lions in them. And so Luke Osborne, the one I was mentioning, and another guy I work with, and myself, we're going around the state, and we're actively trying to remove lions. In fact, uh, the one guy I work with, he does a bunch of trapping them rather than running hounds on them. He caught one the other day, and it had a elk antler stuck in its hind end. The antler had broke off. It's pretty crazy. I'll show you a picture, but um, we do a lot of work like that for them, helping them out, and I hope it's benefiting them. I just from this year's deer hunt, I actually seen more deer and more large bucks than I have seen in quite a long time, and that makes me very happy. See that. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do like you have to find it.
No, so when I'm working for on livestock, we basically work three animals, right? We work coyotes, lions, and bears. Coyotes, they are kill on site. If you have an opportunity to remove that animal, then we take that animal. Lions are now the same way. Up until last year, though, it wasn't that way. And the bears, you have to have a proof of loss. So um, is how it works is the sheep man or the herder will call me and say, hey, I have bear trouble in such and such a place. And so I'll take my dogs and I'll go into that area, and we ride down on our horses and we find that kill. Once I see that animal, that dead sheep or dead cow or whatever it is, then I can actively pursue that animal that killed it, and remove remove whatever it was, whether it was a lion or a bear. Coyotes are the same way. We just don't have to prove that they did the killing. We can just, if they're there, we try to remove them. So, and right now, just in the last year or so, they've changed the policy on lions. It used to be that you had to draw out a tag, and then after the end of February, it turned to a quota. Um, uh, that meant that everybody that drew out a tag, if they didn't remove the lion that they were after, then anybody could go buy a tag until the quota was filled. So if they wanted 50 lions removed and they only killed 45, there was 5 quota tags. So you can do that. Now, all you have to have is a combination hunting license, and if you see a lion, you can kill it. You still have to get it checked in by the division or a biologist, and basically all he's going to do is he's going to look at the carcass or the hide, because a lot of times you don't take the whole carcass out with you. He checks it to see that what kind of health it was in. It used to be illegal to trap lions. Now it's not. Anybody can go trap a lion. But in the past, they'd look at the paws to make sure it hadn't been in a trap. They check the fat on it for health purposes. And then they take and remove this small tooth right behind the canine. That's called a premolar. And that tooth right there, they would enter it into their data system, and it helps them age the animal, sex the animal, and give health on it. And then they also, if any part of that animal was found being used illegally, they had that DNA link to where they knew where it had come from, and they could arrest the offending person. But anyway, that's another thing with these lions. As I'm going to pass this skull around, and it's kind of old. I've had it for a long time, but I'd like you to look at this canine tooth on here and rub your finger down that canine tooth, and you'll feel a ridge about right there on it. That's another way to age a lion when you're looking at them. When a lion is 2 years old, that ridge is still up in the gum. So if you kill a young lion, it's stuck up in there. As the lion ages, that crease will come down. Typically, a tom lion in Utah doesn't last past 3 or 4 years. He's going to get killed. A lot of people actively hunt the toms, and it's a good thing. Toms, they range a long ways. Like this lion right here, my wife killed this back. How old were you, Nash? Like 4 or 5. He was with us, just a little fella. we killed this lion in West 8 Mile. So y'all familiar with West 8 Mile? Um, this lion had tattoos in its ears when we killed it, and I know the biologists and whatnot. So I was able to contact them and find some information out on this lion. This lion was part of a study they were doing off the Oquirrh Mountains, which is up by Tooele. And so they'd caught this lion up there, tattooed its ears, and we removed it in West 8 Mile. It was a young lion. It was like a 3, maybe 4-year-old lion. If you look here on it, you can see it had some trauma at some time in its life, whether another lion had got a hold of it or an elk had hit it with a horn. I don't know what happened there, but it was just kind of neat to me to know that that lion had moved that far. The thing I don't know, was he still going south, or had he already been south and coming back? You know, it's interesting to me to learn about that kind of stuff. I know with that same study, they had a female lion, a young female, that they had marked, and a hunter actually killed that lion in Colorado. And for a female to move that far is really remarkable. Typically, a female will stay in, like, if once she establishes a home, she'll stay in certain drainages, canyons, like Oak City Canyon is one drainage, and she might be on the top of it or the bottom of it, or she might be in Dry Creek or Whiskey Creek. But typically a female will stay in an area about that size. These tom lions, they're really amazing. They will travel hundreds of miles. And toms are looking, they look for two things in their entire life: food and love. So they're looking for a female lion. And a tom lion, if you want to increase the population of lions, it's probably a good idea to remove toms. And the reason I say that is a tom lion will go in and find a female that has young kittens, and then it will kill those kittens, and that brings that female back into heat, so that she'll breed, and that he'll breed her, and then that'll carry his line on. So to save population and increase it, you want to kill the toms. To decrease the population of any animal, lions especially, kill the females, and you'll knock them way down. My personal opinion on lions right now in the state of Utah is we don't have a bunch of them. You can talk to certain biologists for the Division of Wildlife, and they will claim that there's more than they'd like. That's why they're having us do the work we're doing. But I'm out a lot of the days of the year actively looking for lion tracks. And for an example, 20 years ago, when I was first getting into hounds and I was a young guy, I was super excited about it and everything, I'd take a horse and I could go ride the bench over above Fillmore or Holden, and I didn't have to ride very far, and I'd find a lion track to chase with the dogs. Last winter, I think I probably hunted that mountain range and the Oak Creeks probably over 30 times looking for lion tracks. There's a big tom that frequents Scipio Summit. I trailed it a couple of days. I was just on the bad end of it. It was too far ahead of me to get caught up. I never did catch that lion. And then there was a female with 2 or 3, probably 9-month to year-old kittens still working with her up Whiskey Creek. I know those lions actually got killed by some hunters, and that was the only lion tracks I seen. Well, I take that back. I went down to Cove Fort and I caught a female lion down there, and then I seen another lion track in Dog Valley late in the spring. It was pretty warm season. I found it too late in the day to even work it with the dogs, but there's just not a ton of lions, in my opinion. But with that being said, they want us to remove what's there so that their deer numbers can come back up. They claim that a lion will eat a deer a week, so that's 52 deer a year. I think some probably eat more than that, and I think some eat less. So that's probably an average number. I know lions, when you start hunting them a lot, you'll see things that you thought you'd never see. Um, Years ago, I trailed a lion, and I was up Dry Creek, and it come over the top, and it went to the antenna, the TV antenna, and then it went clear down, and that old canal that runs through the sand in Oak City, I caught it down in there. So that was down in there hunting something. And I know there's deer down there and stuff like that, but I truly believe that lion was down there eating rabbits. Um, and I think they eat a lot of rabbits. I think turkeys aren't off the menu. Um, they're they're happy to eat what they can, and I think certain lions get accustomed to eating certain things. I know out in Nevada, a lot of places, wild horses are that lions love them. They they catch a lot of wild horses and eat them, and I think that's a great management tool on wild horses. You know, um, so there's good and bad with them, but I also believe that a lion, when it kills something, a lot of times when it starts to eat it, it'll take and drag it up under a tree, and then it'll cover it up with leaves and bark and sticks and things like that. That's to protect it from the other animals like the birds, the crows, magpies, and also coyotes. But I think if the coyotes come in and eat it, then that lion is forced to go kill something else. So it might kill more than the 52 a year, that particular lion. So there's,
They said there's a few packs of wolves in Yellowstone that have changed their hunting, fallen and cougar.
yeah,
So these cougar are killing every day in order to have enough food to eat because these wolves go, well, we just follow the cougar.
yes, and I believe that 100%. I think that they're very opportunistic in that regard. Wolves and bears both, or even lions, are opportunistic. You know, for years and years, they claimed that lions, coyotes, bears, all the predators were only eating and chasing the weak in the herd. You know, I've seen way too much evidence to believe that. I think that they are opportunistic. If there is a bighorn sheep right there with great big horns and they can catch that one, they're eating that one. I've seen video of it. You know, I've seen video of them taking down very large deer, large bucks. Um, they they're natural born killers. That they know how to do it from birth, and then mama teaches them a little more, and they get really really good at it. Um, they're coyotes, bears, lions, all of them. That's how they make their living, right? They've got to eat, and so they get really really good at what they do, and they're good hunters. Bears, they kind of kill on a different level than the lions and the coyotes. So I'll explain to you a little bit on how each animal kills stuff. Coyotes, when they kill something, a lot of times they're going to grab it right there on the bottom of the throat, and and if you skin that hide back, you'll see the four puncture marks of the canine teeth where they actually bit it right under the ear and right in the throat, and they just hang on and they choke it out. Okay, they kill it. That trauma kills it, and then they start eating it. A lion, most time when a lion kills something, um, if it's young, like a lamb or a fawn or a calf, they'll bite it right on the back of the head, right there, right between the ears. And when they do it with such force. I've actually seen it where they bite it so hard that it removes that part of the skull, and it just kills them dead. When they're killing larger animals like full-grown sheep, calves or cows, horses, deer, things like that, they'll jump on the back of them. They also bite them in the back of the neck, right where the skull hooks onto the neck. They'll reach up with a paw and they'll pull their nose around. And as that animal's running, trying to get away, a lot of times it'll fall, and I think it breaks its own neck by the fall. And that's how they kill it. They're, like I say, very, very proficient at killing stuff. Bears, they kill gruesome. They, when they kill something, they just grab it, knock it down, and they start eating it. And it's not dead yet. Um, I've seen a lot of times where I work in the livestock area, um, they'll kill a lamb, and then they'll also take a ewe and just flip her over and eat her bag off of her and then let her go. And she'll live for 3 or 4 days until she's fly blown, and then she dies. But they just grab stuff, turn it over, and start eating. And you'll see that when something does get away from them. I've seen animals that are eating from like here down, and they're still alive. So you know that's what's going on. Bears typically will move in on like a herd of sheep, and the first night that they move in, they raise some havoc with them. They'll kill 4, 5, 6 lambs. A couple of ewes will get eaten. And then after that, they kind of slow down and they'll eat 1 or 2 a night, maybe skip a night and then eat, then they get pretty regular at eating 1 or 2. Lions, the most I've ever seen a lion kill in one night was 27 lambs. And it just walked through there. They had the sheep up on a bed ground. That lion walked through that bed ground, and it wasn't even biting them. I think it was just hitting them in the head with its paw, and it was breaking their necks. Some of those lambs were still alive but paralyzed and just laying there. And, we had to take care of them as well. But that lion is really an interesting lion to me. And the reason for that was for 5 years in a row, it come through the same herd of sheep. And I know it was the same lion because it come through on the same day every year, July 31st. And so the first year, I didn't know it was coming. Went in there, it killed the sheep. I went and hunted it, didn't catch it, it was gone. The next year, same deal. Didn't have any idea it was going to be there. Takes me a few years to catch on to things, right? So by year 4, I'm thinking, oh, that lion's coming July 31st. I'm starting to hunt July 29th. That lion actually come in on the 30th, so a day early. And I was in the right spot. I caught that lion. I've caught 2 really, really big lions in my life that I would say are over 200-pound lions, and that doesn't happen very often. This was one of them. But that was pretty exciting for me to finally catch that lion after years of working it. And like I said, I think those tom lions, they have a huge range, and I think that was just where that lion was meant to run on that day, and he was probably in the same spot every couple of months, just rolling through there like that. But so it's kind of interesting. Yes. To be a government trapper, a high school education, you can get the job. There's other positions that we work with, like we have certain biologists that work for us. They help us out with a lot of stuff. We also have urban specialists that work for us. They live in Salt Lake, Provo. They go around and they catch raccoons and skunks and squirrels and things like that out of people's houses. A lot of times them guys will have a wildlife degree in some sense, and they're using that position as a stepping stone to move into management. We also have guys that work at airports, and they do a lot of aircraft strike prevention stuff. So there's a bunch of ducks or geese or sparrows, whatever bird it might be on that airport. They try to remove that bird by trapping it with various means. And a lot of times they'll have a wildlife degree as well. But as far as like the job I have, you only need a high school education. So, any other questions? No? All right. How much time we got left, Chad?
40 minutes.
40? All right. Well, do you guys want to come up and look at